is fascinating and could be a feature-length story of its own, says Kundrat. Here are a few examples to give the flavor of the research. We already know that the human immune system changes in space. It's not as strong as it is on the ground, explains Kundrat. In one of the experiments, Mark and Scott will be given identical flu vaccines, and we will study how their immune systems react. Another experiment will look at telomeres, little molecular caps on the ends of human DNA. Here on Earth, the loss of telomeres has been linked to aging. In space, telomere loss could be accelerated by the action of cosmic rays. Comparing the twins' telomeres could tell researchers if space radiation is prematurely aging space travelers. Meanwhile, in the gut, says Kundrat, there is a whole microbiome essential to human digestion. One of the experiments will study what space travel does to inner bacteria, which, by the way, outnumber human cells 10 to 1. Other proposals are equally fascinating. One seeks to discover why astronaut vision changes in space. Sometimes their old glasses from Earth don't work, notes Kundrat. Another will probe a phenomenon called space fog, a lack of alertness and slowing of mental gears reported by some astronauts in orbit. These will not be 10 individual studies, says Kundrat. The real power comes in combining them to form an integrated picture of all levels, from biomolecular to psychological. We'll be studying the entire astronaut. Separated for a full year, Scott and Mark will make it possible for future astronauts to travel farther than ever before, and still look forward to happy reunions when they return home. For updates from the twin experiment, stay tuned to science.nasa.gov.
And welcome back. Another live view of that rocket out on the pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Scott Kelly, Gennady Padalka, and Mikhail Kornienko sitting in there ready for launch. Currently about 31 minutes and change away from liftoff. Preparations continuing to go on schedule. At this point, the emergency escape system has been armed. The escape tower sitting right in the tip of the rocket is able to fire in the event of any problem or emergency during launch. Designed to pull the spacecraft. The crew is in away from the booster.
It has been used.
Safety, enabling the capsule itself to then parachute down to a safe landing again in the event of any emergency during launch or through the early stages on the climb to orbit. The Soyuz rocket itself standing 162 feet tall, weighing in at just over 680,000 pounds, consisting of the spacecraft inside of a protective shroud at the top, and the 3-stage Soyuz FG booster below. The spacecraft was mated to its booster in Baikonur back on Tuesday, and then the entire rocket was transported by rail car to the launch pad shortly after 7 a.m. Baikonur time on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, received a blessing, traditional ceremony by 2 Russian Orthodox priests, who were there out at the launch pad blessing not only the rocket but also members of the pad servicing team and the media. The spacecraft with its 3 crew members sits high above the 3 stages of the rocket, which uses a mixture of kerosene and liquid oxygen as the propellant. The first stage consisting of 4 liquid engine boosters strapped onto the sides of the core stage. Each will burn for about 1 minute and 58 seconds before they drop away. At that point, the rocket will be 30 miles high and downrange over 73 miles, moving at a velocity of 3,937 miles per hour. So a lot of power moving out of that first stage as the Soyuz takes off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Again, you can see here the animation of all 4 strap-on boosters firing throughout that first stage ascent before they expend their life and are eventually discarded. The launch escape system jettisoning there in place to protect the crew in the event of any emergency during ascent or the launch phase. The core stage continuing to fire for about 4 minutes and 57 seconds into the flight. The launch shroud coming off of the Soyuz craft. The third stage has a single engine that's going to ignite just before separation of the second stage, doing something called a hot fire passover, and it's going to burn for 8 minutes and 45 seconds into the flight. And once that's done, the Soyuz is going to be in its preliminary orbit of 143 by 118 statute miles. There you can see the third stage separating, and then the craft flying free on its own. Right now, we're just under 29 minutes away from liftoff. Again, scheduled at 2:42 p.m. Central Time, 1:42 a.m. in the morning over in Baikonur. And on board sits one of the most veteran space flyers, soon to be the most veteran in spaceflight history, Russian cosmonaut Gennady Padalka, commander of the Soyuz craft, making his 5th journey into space today. Kornienko sitting just to Padalka's left, Scott Kelly to his right. The craft's call sign from launch through docking will be Altair, the brightest star in the constellation Aquila. And the same call sign chosen by Padalka back on his Soyuz launch to the Mir space station back in 1998 and his previous 3 Soyuz launches to the International Space Station. Why don't we take a moment now to learn a little bit more about Gennady as he heads on his mission, and will be breaking the record for the most cumulative time ever spent in space by a human being.
Ну, это моя работа. Мне нравится летать. Мне нравится готовиться. У меня были разные экипажи за время моих предыдущих 3 полетов на МКС. Очень много людей, инструкторов участвовали в моей подготовке, очень много учителей, причем в различных космических агентствах. Мне это очень-очень интересно. Скажем, суммарное пребывание в космосе будет самым длительным. Для меня интересно с точки зрения, скажем, тех же самых медицинских экспериментов, насколько сильно влияет космос на состояние моего организма. Я все-таки надеюсь, что столь длительное пребывание в космосе, проведение экспериментов, скажем, надо мной, над моими коллегами, которые тоже вот приближаются к такому же рекорду, это будет интересно для последующих миссий. Космонавт Российской Федерации Падалка Геннадий.
And so joining me now in Mission Control, somebody who knows a
Reed
little
Wiseman
about riding to the station on a Soyuz, NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman. Reed, thanks so much for joining me. Now, you did this, just about a year ago in May.
Yep.
You took the trip up from Baikonur. Walk me
First
through
Soyuz launch I
what's
saw.
it like launch day for somebody that's on the craft getting ready to go into space?
First, let me just say I'm amped up just to be sitting here with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited for Scott and Gennady and Mikhail. And really, so I think you've seen it through the video here, but you wake up in the morning and you take that last shower. And for me, it was just standing there and letting the warm water come over me because I knew
for a long
it's
time.
the last one for a long time for Scott and his crew. It's the last one for a long,
Yep.
long time. And then you make your way over, probably get to say goodbye to your families, kind of in a little private ceremony. And for me, that was the toughest part of the whole flight. Is you're saying goodbye for a long time. And then you head to the bus, head over, and get your spacesuit on, and then it's up the elevator to the rocket, and that's where they are now, sitting there. I guess they're approaching launch. They're probably listening to music that they're piping through the VHF radio and just trying to relax a little bit.
And so what does it feel like sitting, you've been training for 2 years, you're inside the rocket, you're a little scrunched up, so you're ready to go. What does it feel like to be sitting on
There's
the
a whole
tip
mix
ready
of
to go?
emotions. You said scrunched up, and so your knees are tired, your hips might hurt, your back might hurt, so there's some discomfort involved there. Then there's that, this is a really experienced crew, so I was a rookie. For me, it was just this adrenaline, this excitement of this is a whole lifetime of work, a dream coming true right here. So for me, it was let's get on with this. Let's light this rocket and get into space. And I'm sure they're feeling that a little bit right now. But so there's adrenaline. But overall, you got a shroud on. It's pretty dark in there. It's just like the simulator. It's really relaxing. I mean, our heart rates were all pretty much resting heart rates right up to launch, and more relaxed than you would expect.
And I mean, like you said, these guys, some of the most experienced, one of them about to be the most experienced ever. For them, it might be another day at the office almost.
You're riding a rocket.
That's true. You're still riding the rocket. So, I mean, and then walk me through, the engine's light, you're going, what does that feel like? I mean, that's something almost nobody gets to experience.
So the Soyuz is actually very smooth off the pad. But the one thing that still gets your heart going is it's a rocket sitting there and it's alive. And so when the engines start, it'll actually burn, and you'll see it here at liftoff. It'll burn for about 20 seconds before it lifts off of the pad. And so the engines start at a slower RPM, and you don't really feel that. You can kind of hear it, so you know something's going on. And then about 3 or 4 seconds before liftoff, the engines go up to 80%, and you really feel this rumble under.